2 European games and a Rangers game while we're in the midst of these the transfer window. And anybody that's coming in now, they're not going to be likely ready for these games.
See, if I looked at the podcast from the last flagship from the end of the window, would you not be on that? If we found that podcast, would you not be saying that Engels, Ida, Luke McKay, would you not be saying this is good business?
At this point in time, I'm no settling for he'll do it left back, he'll do in midfield.
Is the negativity around Celtic warranted? That and more this week on 20 Minute Tims. I'm your host Jamie, joined by Melly.
Yes.
And Stephen.
Hello.
By gosh, people are busting at the flames out there, Stephen. Nobody is happy at all with the state of Celtic. You see it on social media, we see it in the YouTube comments, we see it on Patreon, we see it in the Discord. Everyone is getting really pissed off, and I thought, in amongst all the negativity and anger, there's a sea, there's not a sea, but in amongst the sea of comments, there's some flotsam and jetsam about saying it's not so bad, and I thought, maybe it's worth discussing. Is the negativity around Celtic actually warranted at the moment?
Meanwhile, there's the sideshow of some football games being played in amongst it as well. Forget about all that. Let's get back to the morning. As soon as that final whistle goes, it's time to get back to the whinging online. Is it warranted? I suppose that's quite a complicated question and a good one to kick us off, because with all of these things, I try not to sit in the fence, but it depends. If you're online, some of it's quite funny, but anytime Celtic tweet anything, or the first replies are always like swearing. Let's put it that way. I don't want to lower the tone on this podcast, or I don't want to lower myself to it, right? But if you're doing
the YouTube rules have changed, we can say shit in the opening
couple
of minutes now.
Can we say that people are telling Celtic to fuck off multiple times a day? There we go.
Do that,
right? Okay. So if you're doing that, I always assume that a lot of it's just kind of at it. A lot of it's kind of jokey, right? But if you're absolutely furious about absolutely everything, then that's maybe a little too extreme for me, because as I joked about, there are football games being played that we can all be relatively satisfied with so far, so it's not all bad. But to be honest, I'm not going to take any bullets. I'm not going to jump in the way of the Celtic board for this. I think people are entitled to feel how they feel. If they are annoyed at how Celtic are being run at the moment, then I think it is justified, because we can get into all the details about it, but to me, as it stands, and I totally accept there are a number of weeks left in this transfer window, but we are winning games, yes, but we're witnessing, at best, a very, very slow and quite frustrating transfer window. But at worst, we are witnessing the gradual grinding down of our expectations to the point where we are crossing from anger into bargaining, and we're all coming to terms with, he'll do till January.
What do they call that? The stages of grief? Is
yes,
that what it's called?
So if we're all in anger just now, I can see it, and I've seen it so many times, we're all about to cross into bargaining, where we start to think about, right, what can we get away with between now and January? Because
get a loan to tide us over till the summer, like we did said in January.
Yes, inexplicably, the most important transfer window for Celtic is always the next one. Doesn't matter what we do just now, we'll get it all sorted in the next one. So it's a complicated issue at the moment, but I totally understand. I broadly support anyone's right to say, look, you referring to the club, stuck your hand in my pocket this summer for an above inflation ticket price rise. Do your job now. We've done our part. It's over to you, because with all the arguing over the money and the vast cash reserves, effectively, that's ours. That's ours.
That's a point I've made. We're not asking Dermot Desmond to personally fund anything here. That money that is in the club's bank, Melly, is through season tickets. It's through Champions League packages. It's through all the vast amounts of strips and merchandise that Celtic supporters buy, which increases the value of the Adidas deal that the club gets. So there's money in from there. Okay, but the money's also made up of Champions League TV revenue, Champions League participation, but the fans play their part in that by turning out and supporting the team. And we're not saying go out and spend all this money and bankrupt yourself like Rangers. That we're saying go and spend some of the money we put in, because I feel like we spend this money on Celtic and get to see and enjoy football. Let's just take Kyogo for an example. We all get to watch him play football, and it's brilliant, and we love him, we support him, and you enjoy going to games, and it enhances the game. And then he goes and you don't replace him, and you're left like, well, but that was part of support. I know players leave all the time, but the quality that he brought was part of the reason that I enjoy supporting Celtic, and I want to see Celtic maintain that quality. So I think I've got more to say, but I'll go to you first.
Yeah, look, I agree with you both, and I understand people. I try to live my life positively. I try to look at the positive side because
the wrong podcast, mate. We need
Yes.
to replace this guy.
Yep, because I did it the opposite way for a long time and it didn't work out for me. So I try and be as positive as possible. But
Celtic have just ruined it all
yeah,
for you.
they are breaking me down slowly but surely. But like Stephen's saying, if we go back a couple of months, we hadn't even had the season ticket renewals out. And we're getting asked to pay £25 for a friendly against Newcastle. You're like, hold on a minute. Then we get to the cup final and we've got Greg Taylor playing in midfield. We've got
Forgot about that.
Johnny Kenny coming on to win as a cup final. And you sit there and go, but we've got lots of money in the bank. And again, football clubs, why do they exist? To win football games, as you are fond of saying, Jamie. There is no reason for Celtic to be storing scores and scores of money in the bank. It should be out in the pitch. And while you say, yes, we do our bit, we go out and pay our money, people buy strips, people put a lot of money into the club. The manager and the players put a lot of effort in as well. The fans put in a lot of effort. And none of us feel that we're getting rewarded right now. It seems to be, no, we know what we're doing, we'll sort it. But they're not sorting it, and you just feel in this limbo where you're going, this, and I think a part of it for me is watching the game at the weekend. That's meant to be the main part, right? And that was good. It was a good controlled win by Celtic. But again, like always with Celtic, around this time, I'm looking at the team thinking, you're 2 or 3 players away from being a really, really good team. If I look towards last season, we've made some wee improvements, and I just think if we could get players in, we're so close. I don't think it's going to pan out like that, and it's all good that Celtic are winning their first 2 games, and we look over at the other side, the City and Rangers have failed to win them. But if they weren't winning, the negativity would grow even more, so we need to be very careful here. But I understand why people are sick of the negativity and say, oh, you're just being negative all the time. I think we're being realistic for me. I don't think there's any unwarranted negativity in my part, and I just want my team to be the best, and I think we're far from that.
Look, I do get you both, and I do think, but part of me does think the negativity is sort of stretched a wee bit too far. I think, for example, that some of the players are catching strays. Brendan's I think, I'll go into a second, I think the whole thing is catching strays, but I think the whole thing is rather quite unfair on Brendan Rodgers. But I want to just, I'm not, see, every time we do this, every time you play devil's advocate on a podcast, people assume that's my opinion. So if I was going to play devil's advocate for the board, people often in the comments would be like, can't believe Jamie's sticking up for the board and all that sort of stuff. So I've got an idea. The mask.
For the benefit of listeners,
I've got
Jamie
a mask
is holding a skull mask.
It's a skull mask.
Yep.
When I have the mask on, I'm being the board. Right?
Right.
I'm the board right now. When I'm not having the mask on, I'm being Jamie. Right?
Prop drama on the podcast.
Board. Jamie. Okay, so here we go. Why does it matter that we haven't signed any...
Oh, that's going to be great for listeners.
Well, they can tell. Why does it matter we've not signed players yet? There's still plenty of time in the window. We've won 2 games out of 2. The manager has said he wants players, and we've told him we're going to get them.
Right, so again, for me, the business Celtic done last season, I don't see big clubs, whether it be big clubs in top 5 leagues or clubs of a similar stature to Celtic, going into the last couple of weeks of every transfer window needing at least 4 first-team players.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how big clubs run. I don't think it's how well-run clubs go about their business. And when I look back to the business we've done in the last 2 seasons in the summer since Brendan Rodgers has come in, the guys towards the end of the window, Engels, Ida, Trusty, Valle, Luke McCowan were all signed in the last week or so. Are any of them great Celtic players who have been exceeded expectation or even reached expectation? Luke McCowan's been decent. Alex Valle didn't even last the season. He does get serious question marks. Engels has lost his place, and Trusty's not got his place just now. The season before, Lewis Palmer came in late towards the window, guys like that window which looks even more ridiculous the more we speak about it. Not a single player in that window has made an impact in Celtic. So all this waiting for what? Because the quality isn't there.
Stephen, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Why is everyone freaking out? We said we'd get it done. We have shown in the past that we always sign. We always get the business done.
Yeah. So I heard that. I heard Brendan Rodgers quite fairly unenthusiastically batting away a question about the transfers. In his recent press conference, talking about how, well, the board have shown in recent seasons that business will get done. Yeah, I don't think we're really disputing that. But as Melly laid out there, it's more the nature of the business that's getting done in recent times. Now, I'm not talking about Matt O'Reilly, Dyson Maeda, all these guys who have signed and been absolutely brilliant. I'm talking about the last 4 or 5 transfer windows. So if you want us to start thinking about past transfer windows, you should probably be careful with what you wish for there. I don't
probably thinking about all the bad ones.
Yeah, I don't doubt that players will come in. I can't possibly believe on this day, I can't believe that no business would be done. I think that's unrealistic. But as I said at the very start of this, I think we're now in a position where I just don't think everything is going to get done. I don't think that all of the problems that have been there for weeks and weeks will be identified and fixed in this transfer window. And I can't really excuse that. I want to be clear, I'm not sitting here asking at all. I'm not even implying that I want 11 absolutely world-class £10 million players on that pitch, or I'm going to stamp my feet and throw my scarf, throw my shark onto the pitch. I'm not saying that, but at the very bare minimum, we should have a prepared squad for the tough games that are coming up. And at the moment, we just don't have it. And
there's good players out there. Kieran Tierney and Nygren showed that at the weekend. There is good players out there that you can sign.
Yeah.
Why are you panicking? We signed Kieran Tierney and Nygren. There's good players.
Kieran Tierney, a very good player. Hopefully we can stay fit. We've seen at the weekend what an upgrade he is on Greg Taylor and what that can do. But again, Kieran Tierney and Nygren look like upgrades or good. Nygren's probably a better deputy than Engels right now. So yes, you've done well in that respect. And I think GSP might be an upgrade in the centre half if it goes to plan. But those are upgrades that Kieran Tierney was needed. The other two are just sort of luxury. We could have got away without it. It's the ones we definitely need that haven't been addressed, and that's the problem. Kyogo, we knew he was leaving this time last year. Again, knew he was leaving in January.
We know the positions, but everyone knows the positions.
Why has it not been addressed?
Right. Well, I can't defend in the board anymore, Melly.
Put your mask on and do it.
I can't do it anymore, so I'm going to hand you the mask.
It's making me very uncomfortable.
and you put the mask away. So this is where I am. I know people probably don't want to. I do think the business will get done.
Yeah,
I think the business will. I'm confident the business will get done. I think we're going to sign 2 wingers, a left back, and another striker. And the reason I'm confident that the business is going to get done is honestly because the gaps in this squad are so massive that it is almost impossible not to get it done. And I think
is that. I get sorry to jump in. Is that acceptable? But because Celtic are like we've seen last season.
Right, I'm not saying I'll get on to whether it's acceptable or not. I'm just saying, to allay the fears that anybody that believes what I say, I don't have any inside info. I just believe it will get done. I just think it will get done. I think the surgery in the squad is so so critical that it's unthinkable it's done. What the quality of those guys coming in is a whole other story.
The big question, isn't it?
But I can see definitely a situation like Brendan's catching strays. I think this is actually verging on quite unfair on Brendan Rodgers. Why is he the guy that has to constantly, I don't know, act as a human shield for the board when people are asking questions about transfers? Because believe it, without any inner workings of Celtic, I can foresee a scenario where all between January and June, Brendan's went, here's a list of 4 or 5 positions I need. And then between January and June, the scouts have went away and found these positions. And between January and June, the scouts have brought them back to Brendan. And he's went, you know what? Him. I'm happy with him. If you can't get him, I'm happy with option E. I'm happy. There's 7 players. Go and try and get me 4 out of the 7 and I'll be perfectly happy. And then it goes up the stairs and the board are fettling away and doing all these wee bits and bobs on it and then getting to it. I can also, I'm not going to take the mask, but I can also foresee a position where the board are like, right, well, let's get all these other things out the way. Let's get Johnny Kenny's new contract out the way. Let's get these guys that we've scouted for a couple of months since last year, the guys from Japan. Let's get them out the way. And we know KT's coming. That's done. And Nygren, we've got a deal for. So that's all you get all the easy work out the way. Now let's go and spend the last 8 weeks of the window trying to get the absolute best we can for the manager. I can believe that situation occurs. but you're making a face at me, Melly, and so it's because there's nothing to back it up, because there's zero credit in the bank.
See, this is a thing, that it's the communication. If we were told, I'm not saying explicitly say what they're doing behind the scenes, but if we were informed that there was some sort of plan at play, I think we'd all be a lot more at ease with it, because we were talking about this. Look, see, the nature of this podcast is this is basically just how we talk about the football. I think that's always been the sort of purpose of the podcast, is just guys talking about the football. It's neither negative nor positive. It doesn't have to be binary in that. I know people for some reason would prefer it that way. It's either straight down the line positive or negative, but it's not. It's just guys talking about the football.
Non-binary.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, because we're modern.
Yes.
So
non-binary football chat.
Utter woke sense.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So we were talking just today earlier about why Brendan Rodgers is the only guy out there having to deal with this, having to just run about putting out fires. He's the only guy from the club talking about it. And I did think, right, well, is this normal? And it took me, what was it, a second maybe? Yeah. I went away, and in our group chat, I went away, and it took me less than a minute to dig up 2 interviews with Omar Barada of Man United, who is their chief executive. He's done interviews. He's spoken about the disappointments of last season, and he's spoken about the optimism of going forward and their new strategy when it comes to transfers. And then just so much out there coming from the very top of the club. I also found stuff from Southampton's technical director talking about what the plans are. So this is perfectly fine in any other stretch, in any other facet of football. You get guys from the very top talking directly to the fans, whether it's via the club website or various newspapers. They talk to the fans, and I know a lot of people would be like, "Oh, Michael Nicholson, he doesn't need to bother with us plebs, right? He's away in his ivory office dealing with all the." But like Omar Barada is like, he's operating many, many levels above Michael Nicholson. I'm not talking about the size of the club or anything, but that's a guy who has worked for years at Man City. Yep. He was poached by Man United. They threw ridiculous money at him to come and do the same for them. He's turned down NFL franchises and everything. This is a guy working at the absolute top level of the sport in that kind of executive administrative role that he performs. And he's still talking to the fans about what they want to hear. And you know, it's very odd that we get nothing of that regard. Nothing of that nature from Celtic whatsoever, and it literally is just Brendan Rodgers out there saying, "I don't know." It's all above my head. Other transfer. I mean, that press conference that he conducted on Friday there, I thought was. I mean, it was tough to watch, to be honest. It was him fending off questioning after question, and I'm not saying that's out of order. That's people are perfectly
He's just
within
trying
their
to
rights.
find new ways to answer the same question. Multiple times a press conference, any update in transfers, and he's got to balance this situation where he can't come out and go. The onus seems to be only on Brendan to allay fans' fears, to run defence for the board. He can't say, and he needs to be very, very careful what he says, because he knows fans are touchy about transfers, and he knows we're all getting a bit het up and pissed off.
He can't say, no, I'm not satisfied with my squad. And he can't say, yes, I'm satisfied with my squad. So he's finding other ways to say neither of those things, because he can't really say any of them.
And it's not just like Michael Nicholson. We've had Paul Tidsdale come to the club.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. No, I mean, he might be brilliant. Nobody knows a single thing about the guy, because we appoint these guys to really high public positions, and high positions of public interest to support interest to the club. We don't hear a thing about it. Sean Maloney comes in, don't know a thing about what he's doing. We're not saying tell us what you're doing, take money. And it's not that, but 15, 20 minutes on Celtic TV about, hi, I'm Paul Tisdale, this is what I do, this is where I came from, this is what I'm hoping to do at Celtic. I help do X, Y, and Z, and for Celtic I'm going to do that. Sean Maloney, I'm looking to do that. But Michael Nicholson, here's the view of the summer. It's the radio silence, and I think a lot of the negativity is coming from, there's nothing coming from the club. Poor old Brendan, and I'm going to say it, is out there having to find new and interesting, engaging ways to answer the same question a million times. Fans are not hearing anything of any interest from anyone. Time is a ticking on. The only thing we've got to look at is looking back at previous records, and we're like, guys, this is unsustainable. Like the silence, and I get that there's probably a position within the club where they're saying, look, see, come 31st of October, we've got some right good players. We're looking at some really, really good players. But even Brendan's not saying that. And it's not his job. It's not Brendan's job to say, listen, see, come by the end of the window, I'm sure everything will be fine. Look, I know what's going on up the stairs. We're looking at some really, really good footballers, and come the end of the window, believe you me, I wouldn't be here today if I didn't think this club was going to be in a stronger place. But we're not getting it for Brendan. And it's not his job, but we're not getting it for anywhere. So I think a lot of the negativity, and particularly in the online space, and I think what you need to realise, I'm talking to myself here, the online Celtic support is not entirely, but quite different from the G-pop, the general population. And I think it's just a lot of the way that algorithms work and people comment on things and people want their opinion heard, so sometimes they're a wee bit more caustic with their opinions online than they would be in real life, because we know, like, we see your comments on YouTube and on X and all that. These aren't real. The way these conversations unfold online are not real. They're not the way conversations about football fold online when anybody's talking about them. So I think there's... And if you want an example of that, just look at that Newcastle friendly earlier in the season. If you went online, you thought nobody was going to that, it nearly sold out. So I get that there's a difference with the online fans.
St Mirren game was actually quite surprising to me. There wasn't so much as a murmur of like unrest at all at it. I think people were just happy to be back. That might change. That might change because we saw...
That's exactly what I'm getting to. There is zero goodwill. It's all going well just now, and there's no goodwill. If we, God forbid, something happens in this European game in a couple of weeks, if we go and we get beaten by Rangers, which is... Hey, who am I?
Oh, did you see the clip of...
You missed my Russell Martin impression.
Yeah, no, I'm coming to the Radio Clyde. Someone actually did phone in and said he needs a haircut. He said his hair's ridiculous. I've seen loads of comments as well about... He's saying all the wrong things for a Rangers manager, and I get that the language is quite important when it comes to being like a Rangers and Celtic, but particularly a Rangers manager. You can't throw any
Churchill speak.
Yes, yeah. So you can't Struthian stuff. Yeah, so you can't show any weakness. I've seen. I think he's basically sort of saying, like, it might take a wee bit of time to get this right. We might go through a lot more pain before it eventually kind of comes around. I saw people screenshotting like tweets saying, what kind of vegan attitude is this? Unbelievable. It is going disastrously wrong for him already. And this is, sorry to derail us into like this sort of chat already, but this is why there's no point in appointing a manager that everybody just hates. You're on an absolute loser from
literally.
From day one, it's not going to go well. That's 2 draws, and people are publicly calling for his head.
Yeah, but
his beautifully coiffured head.
Poor old love muscle, but even like,
is that his nickname, or is that something you just call?
Up, eh? Oh, well. It's called Russell, really.
Oh right. Oh, okay, yeah. My bad.
So even if we go like last weekend, Rangers had a poor result away to Motherwell, right, first game of the season. During the week, they go and get a really good European result. They've got their 2 new wingers setting goals up for each other, and everybody's like, Celtic haven't signed them. They're signing wingers willy-nilly, and they're setting up goals. Then we go a couple of days later and they drop more points. Celtic winning, we're now 4 points ahead of them. That's how quickly it can change within a week. And the same goes for Celtic. If Celtic go and they've got Falkirk this week in the Cup, but the big games come thick and fast after that. We have got 2 European games and a Rangers game while we're in the midst of these the transfer window. And MD that's coming in now, they're not going to be likely ready for these games. So again, we're pushing this on, and it's no the way it should be done for me. That looking at transfer windows in the past and look, the business will get done, but okay, like I said last week, but how far down your list have you went? Have you had to go and get new lists because the ones when you sat down to January to June, where are all these guys? Are we waiting on those guys? I very much doubt that.
So this is hypothetical, but I think it's realistic. On that note, we've already spoken about how the season ended with the state of the team that was in the cup final. If Celtic were to drop points quite soon, before the end of this, or even after the window slams shut, right, and we've not done the business that we're all sort of vaguely hopeful or faithful that will happen, right? If Celtic drop points with, for example, Kieran Tierney's had to be managed, so he's taken off. Liam Scales has had to go in at left back, so you've brought on Trusty, therefore weakening 2 positions at the same time because Scales is your first choice centre half. You move him to the left back to accommodate Trusty because Tierney's had to, he's pulled up or whatever. We've ended the game with Yang and Johnny Kenny and Luke McCowan. I'm not digging out these players, but I'm just saying if we drop points and we've ended the game with those guys on the pitch, that's when the trigger goes for me.
I think crucially though, we are winning football games as well, and I think that's, Brendan Rodgers could he could be a bit more. He is doing a lot of heavy lifting for the board. He could be more caustic about this, and he could be complaining, but he's not. He's like, right, okay, I don't have another left back. KT's struggling to get through games at the moment, as we know, because Brendan Rodgers said something about he's not played a lot of football and they need to manage him.
He said he's not played a lot of football in the past few years, which was an alarming thing to say.
And he was sick in the dressing room, which is a
Yeah.
weird thing. But so we're moving Scales to left back, and I know Stephen, you were in the Discord, and you think like well, you might maybe a misquote. You think that's a bit of a canary in the coal mine, like that's a disgrace about that, and I know a lot of people agree with you, and I'm kind of on the other side. I'm like, well, that's not the canary. The canary in the coal mine for me is actually the winger situation. The fact that we saw fit to embark on this season. I know we need 2 wingers without even one, because Jota's, I don't need to run through, tell everyone, but even the stuff like Telio not being able to move on and Yang not being able to lose.
But Jamie, this is how they get you. This is you crossing into bargaining.
I know.
I warned
2
you about
wingers, 2 canaries. Look where we're going down here.
Well,
that's where Yang was off to, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I warned you about it at the start of this podcast. We're going into crossing into bargaining. You're talking about, but if we get the wingers, it's fine if Liam Scales is playing left back. And
for the next 3 weeks, if we don't sign a left back, and
but this is how they get you. It creeps in. It doesn't just happen.
Look at us in January. Oh, do you know what?
Have I got the board mind virus?
Yeah,
is that what's happening?
In the pocket of big PLC. So no, look, Liam Scales filling in for 10 minutes at the end of the game. It's not a big deal, but it's just a lack of preparation for this season. Because if Liam Scales was seen to be a viable choice at left back, what's the point of bringing in Jeffrey Schlupp at the end of last season? Just stick Liam Scales there. Yeah. Why were we trying to sign Greg Taylor on an extended contract? Just stick Liam Scales there. It's not. It's a stopgap. It's a plaster over a gaping wound in the squad. And I'm just at this point. Yes, we will cross into bargaining, as I keep saying at one point, but I'm just not prepared to give them that leeway at this point. We shouldn't be coming out of this transfer window with all the money and not guaranteed by any stretch of the imagination, but another tilt, hopefully at the Champions League. We shouldn't be coming out of this transfer window with he'll do until January, and then it's no good enough. And I'm not. Eventually, we'll come to terms with it once the window's gone and we're just watching football games. Yeah, I'll need to deal with it. At this point in time, I'm no settling for he'll do it left back, he'll do in midfield. Dyson might get injured. Luke McCowan played a bit in the wing for Dundee. Stick him at
Nygren.
No, I'm not accepting it just now. But I do agree that there's no sense in getting worked up about it right now, because that could be fixed in a couple of weeks' time. So I do agree with you. I'm just not prepared at this moment in time to be like, do you know what? We might be fine if we muddle through to January, because it's just no. It's not the right way to operate. I don't really see anyone else. And granted, the finances are completely different for a lot of clubs who are in the Champions League, but I don't know if there will be many Champions League level clubs or clubs who like to talk about themselves as being at the top table, just going into a season, a Champions League campaign with he'll do players in certain positions. Again, as I said earlier, I'm not saying I want 10, 15 million pound players in every single squad berth, but players who can approximate the role. That you can't have, for example, you can't have Kieran Tierney, who is going to be, all things going well, one of our best players this season. He's shown it already. You can't have a guy at left back doing that, and then the other guy is completely incapable of doing anything that guy can do. He's just a guy who's left-footed and can fill in a little bit. I'm not saying you need 2 Kieran Tierneys. That'd be very difficult, but somebody who can get forward and have a rough sort of approximation of what it is Kieran Tierney offers would be a start.
Yeah, and look, we've sat here previous years around this time at the end of January, maybe saying, look, right, okay, this is where we are right now, we just need to deal with it. But we can't keep saying that at the end of every transfer window. What you want to see is progress from your club and go, right, we've learned from our mistakes, we'll not do that. Or maybe there's things going on behind, we're bringing in people to sort this. It's the same every season. And even with the last 2 seasons, we can kind of get away with it because you've got right up to the end of August and you've not got the Champions League. But we've got the Champions League now. These games.
Who are we going to play? We're going to play some team we're going to batter 5-0.
Right.
Touchwood.
Right. We've played 2 games and a forward player hasn't scored a goal for us yet. So they're the gaping issues we do have.
Yeah. I mean, Brendan said that, didn't he? He says he's quite happy with sort of most of the team, but it's the forward line he wants to look at.
Yeah, and again, the excuses every season dwindle away. Oh, look, last season, Matt O'Reilly's going, but he didn't go to the end of the window. So once we get the money in, we can go and spend it there. We've got loads of money in the bank. We've already sold Nicholas Kuhn. where's the strategy here? It's not. The strategy should be, right, Nicholas Kuhn's going to go. He's Offski, right, we bring in his replacement and then we go and improve elsewhere. We've not even replaced players we've lost 6 months ago and a year ago.
Yes.
So it's
that's the other bit of bargaining. Sorry to interrupt, but that's the other bit of the bargaining phase. We've stopped talking about improving the team. We're talking about maintenance. We're talking
and
about
that's what Brendan Rodgers said he didn't want to stay for.
Yeah, we're talking about bringing it back up to something approaching the level it used to be. That's not pushing. That's not improving. So yeah, this is why I think people are within reason. I think
I'm going to play devil's advocate again though.
What, the mask?
No. You keep that. Kieran Tierney, clear upgrade on Greg Taylor. Nygren, who is playing football. Brendan Rodgers considers him an upgrade on his midfield options. Certainly an upgrade on Bernardo, who we're going to talk about. And who else?
JSP.
Jamai Simpson-Pusey, who's coming in. If he isn't an upgrade on Liam Scales, he should start a career as a
influencer,
window cleaner or something. No offense to window cleaners, I just mean if he's going to come from the Man City Academy and fail that badly and not be able. So arguably, those three guys are upgrades on what we've got. I'm not saying the whole squad's going to be upgraded, but I'm just trying to look for the shoots of positivity here.
But we're always close. We're always one or two players away from having that good squad and that going. We sat here this time last.
What is your worry? What is your worry for the next couple of weeks?
What's your boggle?
What's your boggle?
So, I'm like you. I think Celtic will bring in the players required, but I don't think this late on you're going to get two wingers who go in and play and a striker who are going to go in and be starting players.
Right, okay, so if Celtic do the business and they do what you didn't think they were going to do, will you come back on this podcast and say, do you know what? Sorry, you were right. I was on the podcast for 2 weeks in a row, probably 4 weeks, criticising you, saying you're not going to do this, time's running out, these players are this, these players are that. You're going to come on the very following flagship from the transfer and they go, do you know what? I got it wrong.
No, right,
that's what's wrong with people like us.
But that's not me doubling down or just trying to say I'm right and they're wrong. Again, this isn't how big football clubs do their business. They don't wait until the very last minute. We've seen last season it doesn't really work. What I'm looking for Celtic is a more measured approach. It seems like other clubs.
I'm not digging you up, but see if I looked at the podcast from the last flagship from the end of the window. Would you not be on that? If we found that podcast, would you not be saying that Engels, Ida, Luke McKay, would you not be saying this is good business?
Yeah, I would say.
I certainly did. I can remember saying that, yeah.
But this brings me on my point. So I would say Celtic addressed everything. That looks like a good squad we've got, but players haven't worked out. And I see other big clubs, I keep referencing Liverpool a lot. They analyse, and I know they're at the top table, but if Celtic are so stringent with their funds, so wanting to save as much money and get the best value they can get, surely you should have players and go, right, there's not going to be many circumstances where this guy doesn't fit in. Scouts agree, the manager agrees, the director of football agree. Everybody's had a look at this player.
Can still fail after that. And I think Celtic are in a position where we
not all of them, but
you're right.
We made
some. Well, so this is the thing. Brendan Rodgers needs to sort of pick and choose his argument here, because to defend that, you would have to say, well, those players, okay, they didn't work out, but Brendan will tell you they did. Brendan only 2 weeks ago was saying Trusty was great, Engels is great, and he does fantastic. It's going to be a big year for him.
The players there at his squad, he can't say that last season didn't work out for us in the transfer market when he's got to go to those guys on Saturday or Sunday and going to perform for me. The reason I say that is because the successful clubs all over the world bring in players that they need. They scout them and they go for them, whether it's Brighton, whether it's Bournemouth, whether it's Liverpool. These teams are identifying players, bringing them in. And of course, with transfers, there's always circumstances that can happen that they don't work out. You're not going to get every transfer right. But if you're doing absolutely everything you can to mitigate any disasters or any wronggoings, then the transfer should work out. Celtic, they don't do that. It's just guys that, we can bring him in. We've missed out in A, B, C, D, but this agent's came and said this to us. I don't expect Celtic to go out at the end of the window and go, see, I told you so. Here's our list for June, and we've got every single
but there's
player
something.
here.
I mean, they could do things like, Brendan could be, if it was true and if that is the case, come out when we've signed a player and say, we've been tracking this guy for months. He's been on my list for a while. He's a player I was really eager to get.
And then it's always funny that the second they sit down to do some press with Jerry McCulloch or whatever, or the press conference for the
Take
media.
it all in.
I heard about it on Monday. It was straight up here. As soon as I heard it, I wanted to sign, but I heard about it 16 hours ago.
I do think that it's just a personal thing. I do think that things are not great. Things are absolutely crap. But I think in this vacuum of information, it feels like time's fast forwarding. I get that there is time left in the window, and the holes are so gaping that I think we're definitely going to bring the players in we need. Liam Scales doesn't seem to think so. Liam Scales said midweek he doesn't. What did he say?
It was something along the lines of Celtic will be absolutely fine domestically and in Europe if they don't sign a single other player.
Why are you sending players out to say things?
Because he's guaranteed to play. He's got 2 positions he can play.
That's right. He's like, I'm actually quite happy with this. If we just leave this as it is, sort of
maybe he's on to 2 wages if they don't sign anything.
Loathed as I am to bring up more negative commentary. Well, let's talk about something. Let's talk about Jemai Simpson-Pusey. I think he looks like a really good signing.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/20minutetims. If you're like, who are these new signings? What are they like? What sort of football do they play? And how are they tactically? And how did they do at their last club? And how have their career gone? And all these questions that Celtic don't answer when new players sign. Patreon.com/20minutetims. You can catch Scouting podcasts. We've got Alex Barker from The Athletic who helps us out with those. Some really good in-depth info on all the players that we sign and on our Champions League opponents and big games and all that sort of stuff. That and much more, including before and after match podcasts. Patreon.com/20minutetims.
Just remembering, why about him? We signed him ages ago. No, we didn't. We waited till the Tuesday or Wednesday, was it, last week?
Apparently that was a Man City thing.
Oh, was it?
Man City needed to give clearance for him or something.
That's fine, because I was going to say, he's in the door, he's signed, he's confirmed. He can't play just now, so it might have been nice to have him a couple of weeks ago to get him training and get him prepared for games. But yeah, he definitely has signed. I mean, we're pushing it for like important games that are coming up, but he has signed.
That is a sign. That whole thing about, oh God, he's been about for ages, or for God's sake, and we took part in that as well. That to me is a bit of a so everyone got annoyed and pissed off that this guy was about, and he was a picture at Celtic Park, and he wasn't announced. I was like, this is amateur hour. And then Brendan comes out and goes, yeah, there was an issue at Man City's end. We needed to wait for clearance before we could announce him. But people are still annoyed about it, even though we've been given the answer.
And I'm only joking. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes at Man City either. He might have just become available for loan. I know the sort of obvious thing would be to leap to the fact that, we could have got him at the very end of the season if he's not going to play for Man City. It doesn't always work like that. It might just be a case of they've had a look at what they're planning to do for the season, and then someone has kind of fallen by the wayside, and we've taken him.
He's up training ties into what Brendan said about saying he's not quite ready for football yet. He was only doing small-sided stuff and single training on his own. So we went, right, any chance we could just... Give me the mask. No, don't. But we could have went, any chance we really want to get him fit and ready for playing. Can we, any chance we could just, we'll not announce it, but can he come up and start training with us? At least get a week's training under his belt. No bother, take him and we'll tell you when the paperwork's done. No, it could have been that simple.
Yeah, and overall, the player himself, I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy with that sign. And I know a lot of people don't like just taking players on loan that you don't really, seemingly have the option to sign at the end.
I don't care about that at all, really.
I don't personally care about it. As I say, I understand the gripe. I just don't agree with it. I don't subscribe to it. I think my concern, my wish is to get the best players that Celtic can afford on the pitch at all times. I know that's an oversimplified desire for the Celtic team, but that's really what it's all about. I know you don't want to saddle yourself with an entire team of loans or half your team of loans that you're never going to sign, but one of a reasonably... famous last words, I've done this before, but an almost guaranteed level of some sort of quality in there. You don't get near the Man City
kiss of death.
Oh, I've done it so many. Did I do that about Laxalt? I'm pretty sure I did. Shane Duffy as well. Check the record, bud, on my chat about signings before. But you don't... I know there's been talk about how he hasn't had that much first team experience, but it's not that much first team experience at one of the best teams of the last decade, right? Man City are up there. In any given season, they might not reach the Champions League final, but in any given season, they're in the conversation to be one of the best teams in Europe, right? So I'm choosing to look at it, having any recognition in the first team at Man City is almost as good as a cast iron guarantee as we're ever going to get of a certain level of quality. Pep Guardiola wouldn't give you the time of day if you weren't good on the ball for a start. So I think we can all, even before we've even seen him play, we can start to build a profile of what we think Jemai Simpson-Pusey is going to look like on the pitch, and I think we'll probably be quite close to it. I'm picturing athletic, good on the ball, and we've already had him scouted. That this is the kind of stuff that came up. But even without having it professionally done, you've got that kind of Man City stamp of approval, stamp of quality that's coming to Celtic. So
Virgil Ayer type.
Yeah. I would like to think so. Someone who's very, very comfortable on the ball, and we need a bit of that. We need a bit of that because Scales. Do you know what, I've said I don't want Scales being the backup left back, and I'd stick to that. I don't want that to be the situation for the season. But I thought he was excellent against St Mirren in the first game of the season. His passing isn't great, and I think that was exposed against Aberdeen. I don't think he's particularly great on the ball. So Jemai Simpson-Pusey coming in to hopefully fix that should make Celtic a completely different outfit in terms of their build-up play. But that's not to say, I mean, he's got to earn his place. So we expect him to do that, but it's not guaranteed. So I'm seeing all these improvements happening. It really is just that front end of the pitch.
We're halfway there, aren't we?
That's it.
The left back, we've got a clear upgrade, and we can see straight from the Aberdeen game what that can do. Kieran Tierney going on the outside was brilliant for us. JSP coming in, look, it was JSP or an upgrade in Nawrocki, so I think we can all agree
completely forgot about Nawrocki existing.
If he plays more than 4 games, he'll be an upgrade on him. And Nygren's come in. I wanted a bit more from him after last weekend, but he sort of took the game by the scruff of the neck.
He's like that bargain, isn't he?
Yeah,
1.5. I mean, it's very early days. You don't know how things are going to pan out for him, but he looks. I remember Brendan Rodgers saying last year that he needs fresh bodies in to refresh the squad. He said you either refresh the players or you refresh the manager. And I think by that he wanted hungry players that are not so jaded or not so used to the to and fro of the Scottish Premier League. That guy's away at Aberdeen. He looked as if he knew exactly what the game meant to Celtic. He was right up for it. Again, gene up the crowd. You can take that or leave it. I actually quite liked it. He's getting involved in absolutely everything. On the ball, really positive, as you say, Millie. Took the game by the scruff of the neck. Definitely man of the match. But after that game, I'm like, 0.5 million for him is looking like good business.
Yeah. And
thanks, Michael. You are the best.
Thanks, Michael. That was a Brendan signing.
That's why, like, there is bargains out there. We've seen it. It doesn't have to be £6-7 million players across the board. If you do your scouting and you do the proper preparation, you can find guys like this. But it has
contract
to be,
thing, isn't it? So it's a tale as old as time. You get it at the exact right time and you reap the benefits of that. But I mean, I suppose the trouble would be if you're completely fixated on that throughout an entire window, and then you get to the last couple of weeks and all of a sudden there aren't any players left who have 6 months left on their contract. So I give them credit for that because it looks like a really good signing. And unfortunately for some other players in the squad, he kind of looks more like a hit the ground running Celtic player than a lot of other players in his position have been.
But well, there may be. He's looked good. I thought he's looked very good on the ball. I mean, you were speaking about it after the game yesterday. He has a good knack of knowing when to play the ball forward, but also just to take that touch and play it back and have Celtic recycle the play and just take the sting out of it, because Celtic controlled that game really well yesterday. I never felt like Aberdeen were going to score. There's obviously the odd chance or two, but even at 1-0, I thought we'll see this out or we'll get another goal, which we ultimately did. But Nygren was great at that. He's just calm on the ball. See how he gets on in Europe. It's a different game, but I think he's going to be a decent Celtic player. Could be going to be a very good Celtic player. And that's what you're looking for from your signings, guys, to come in and do that and just look like in games, because you're going to get European games. It is a big step up, but Aberdeen away is one of the sort of tougher games for Celtic, and he looked at home there. Celtic have had problems sort of last season. If Real Hatati's out the team, about creativity in midfield, Nygren will be able to help with that. And again, look, McCowan came on and done well last week getting his goal. So if Celtic can have different options in there, it shows what you can do. Because if Nygren and Hatate are doing the business, Celtic go 2 goals up from them, they can bring on 2 players. But it's the rest of the team where we don't have those options. If we take one off, we have to move Nygren out wide and then do all sorts of manoeuvres when we make a substitution in certain parts. What we want is that strength and depth all over the pitch, and Nygren's brought us that. Kieran Tierney's an obvious upgrade. JSP will probably do that. We just need a bit more in the forward areas and we'll be grand.
It leaves Bernardo in a bit of a weird spot career-wise, doesn't it? Having had a look at that, he's definitely not down another notch, probably even behind Luke McCowan now in the pecking order. Does he find himself 5th choice?
Midfield,
6th choice?
Yeah, in the midfield he's 6th, but even just the the number 8s that we've got in the squad, he's 5th of that. And in both of these games, we've had 2 start, and it's both times it's been Hatate and Nygren, and then we've had 2 come off the bench, and Bernardo finds himself even outside of that. So it's not a good position for him to find himself in. I think it's different to Engels.
If Celtic were to sign a winger, you'd expect he'd be the one to drop off the bench.
See, that's the problem. That a lot of people, maybe I don't know about a lot of people, but it's something we don't take into account, how perilous it is for these guys in the squad, because it's all very well saying Celtic need to sign 3-4 players in the coming weeks, but that's going to knock players off the bench entirely. And I think Bernardo, I would even say, for these games, I'd rather have, based on almost nothing but a couple of halves of pre-season football, I'd rather have Inamura on the bench just as an emergency backup for Kieran Tierney rather than 3 centre mids. I think that's excessive. So you've got 3 centre mids on the bench and you've got 2 strikers, only one of which is ever going to come on, probably in most cases. So Bernardo he looks there as a glaring, just a waste of a squad space, and I don't like saying that about him, but that's what it looks like in this situation.
He's not a terrible footballer.
Not at all.
He's not a terrible footballer, Bernardo, but he's just found himself in a difficult spot. And
yeah,
I did hear at the time when he joined Celtic that he was more of like I'll take him because I can't get anyone else.
Yeah.
And Brendan Rodgers.
When was he signed? The last day of the window, eh?
But that doesn't. I'm not going to defend it, say every player that we signed is a good one in the last day of the window, but the point I'm making there is he's starting to look like that. Brendan's got a few other bodies in, players he likes a wee bit more, and Bernardo's a promising footballer. He's not a terrible footballer. I think he would probably play in many other Celtic teams. He's just not getting a game in this team. He still represents Portugal under 21. I think apparently he's the captain.
Too old for that, away a long shot.
He's at least 23 now.
He's 23, so I don't really know. But I think what I'm getting around to saying in a long-winded way is I think it's probably best for him if this is the way it's going to go for Bernardo, based on how his Celtic career has gone so far and where he's found himself, I would not be surprised if he ended up getting a move this window.
Yeah, maybe a loan or something. But if we fast forward a year and Bernardo is at Celtic still in 6th choice play in the midfield berths, how much football is he going to play unless there's a lot of injuries? And he'll be 24 this time next year, barely having made a handful of appearances each season for Celtic. He's
at 70 just now, 70, which is more than a lot of people expect, because I think
many sub appearances,
loads of sub appearances. I think that is, but he started the cup final at the end of last season.
Yeah.
But it was taken off because he was rubbish. So he's not a bad footballer, but I think it's a very unenviable spot he's ended up with his Celtic career, because as I said earlier, it's different to Engels, because all that's happening with Engels just now is he's lost his spot for a bit. This is his 2nd season. We all expected pre-season to kick him on, but he's still an option in there.
I think he'll come back. I think Brendan's had a couple of lessons just now. I think Engels is. I think there's a shot across his bow, and I think Brendan's comments about wanting another striker to challenge Adamida.
Yeah,
I think that was a shot across his bow. I think Engels will get back into the team.
Yeah, I think it's a totally different situation to Bernardo, because the reason I'm more worried about Bernardo, maybe worried's the wrong word. It's not. I mean, it's not harming Celtic in any way. It's just from his point of view. He has ended each of his full 2 seasons at Celtic now, and we're into season 3 as exactly this. So a guy who's not really particularly picked all that often. I know he did start the cup final, but he's been in and out. Ended season 1 as a guy who we thought not really showing an awful lot, but he seems to be quite promising. So let's take him on permanently. Let's see what he's got. Ended season 2 in very much the same way, and now he's miles away from the pitch. So no, it's a long season. I'm sure he'll get chances, but it's just 5th choice for that position is a difficult spot to come back from. Some people have made the case that they believe him to be the possible challenger or support for Callum McGregor, based on maybe a wee bit of that in pre-season. But I don't know if that's a great position for him to be in either, because 1, he won't play, and 2, he described himself, his own words, he said he was an attacking midfielder last season. When Celtic were signing him permanently, he said he wanted to be the guy that gets forward and gets more goals.
See, when I see Nygren in that position and how he played against Aberdeen, I thought that's what we're getting with Bernardo.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I meant when I said he is already looking like more of a sort of Celtic bet in the midfield than a couple of these guys. Ingles, I think, as I said, totally different situation, but Bernardo just seems like a sort of man without a country at the moment, a wee bit lost in there. Ironically, he's not very much not without a country because he's still playing under 21 football at almost 24, but he seems a little bit lost in the squad, and it's actually quite, with all the business that we hope Celtic do, going to actually be quite hard to justify his inclusion at all coming up.
3 weeks left of the transfer window. We have 3 flagships to record until then. I'm going to do this every week. This is how I'm going to finish the podcast. Merely, by the time we sit down here next week, will Celtic have signed 1 or more footballers?
1 at most.
Stephen.
Yes, 1. Yeah, I think we'll get 1 this week. Don't know what. Hopefully a winger though, because I think we're.
Can I interest you in number 8?
Oh yeah, Bernardo's absolutely fuming, man. But we desperately need a winger because James Forrest has been great so far this season. But I'm no.
He needs to score that goal.
Yeah. Oh God, another season of that. I'm no further on from my belief that James Forrest has been excellent so far this season, but we simply cannot have that for 60 games. It's not a viable option. Yang seems to have fallen out altogether. And we've got nothing else. So we need a winger, and Brendan Rodgers is using words like samey. Tellio's still there. He's still the hero. He's not the hero we want, but he's the hero we need at this time. But
he must be pig sick. That
guy.
What am I doing here? Christ.
He's been lining up this move for weeks.
Austria are happy to wait for him.
It seems like it, yeah.
Have you seen him play? Because we haven't.
So we desperately need a winger because Brendan Rodgers is using words like samey when it comes to the attacking part of the team, and that's not a good situation to be in. We look a little bit toothless, as Melly pointed out earlier. We're only getting goals from midfield. That is a combination of things. Notably, Dyson Maeda looking in unusually quite poor form. He just doesn't seem to be clicking whatsoever. James Forrest is a guy who's only scored 1 goal in about 18 months, so you can't really expect him to just start banging them in. And Adam Ida hasn't really landed the way we would have liked this season either.
He's looking shit hot though.
Yes. I mean, it's so cliched at this point, and we discuss him in the same terms every single time. But he does give the ball away an awful lot. But who cares? It's just absolutely just a sensational player. And what a goal that was! It was brilliantly described, very pleasingly described. I think we got a comment on TikTok or something. I'd like to give the person credit, but I can't remember the name. But it described it as a cobweb cleaner because it was right in off the very top corner. I quite enjoyed that. But yeah, enjoyed that every bit as much as I enjoyed watching the goal.
Patreon.com/20MinuteTim. Support is there. Or if you don't want to do that and you want to save your rupees, you can like and subscribe on YouTube. It doesn't cost anything. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week when hopefully we've signed a player, and
any player
will do. Thank you very much.